Welcome to the Academic Woman Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak, tenured full professor, mom of three, and firm believer that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Happy New Year, podcast listeners. I could not be happier than to start a new year. I never thought I would be this happy at New Year's as I am in the new year 2021. It's an understatement to say my hopes are high. Maybe you feel the same way. So I wanted to give you this first podcast of our new season. I wanted to come back and give you a little bit of inspiration about how you might approach your writing in 2021. And I want to focus on this really important part. This year, I want you to plan to be more you. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that I want you to put all the shoulds aside. I want you to think about all those things that you're like, I should be writing every day. I should be able to write something in this amount of time, right? I should be this fast at writing it. I should be able to keep focus on a project even when I'm completely tired out by it. All of those shoulds that you've been telling yourself. And let's just say all the shoulds you've been telling yourself in 2020, let's leave them in 2020. And let's go into 2021 with a plan to actually lean in to you, to be more you. When I teach my Navigate program and the Amplify and Elevate program, one of the main ways that I coach our clients is to actually understand what they do, what they need, and to come to that understanding through reflection. And then to really design systems and processes and really kind of make their work life align with who they are and what they need, instead of kind of outwardly imposed definitions of how you are supposed to get things done. So let me give you a couple of examples here. In 2021, I really want you to think about what you need to get your writing done, okay? So maybe you're the kind of person who writes super early in the morning, all right? There's not that many. I'm not that person, okay? But let's say you're that person. Then in 2021, I want you to just accept that and love it. And say, well, this year I'm going to stop trying to put my writing into some other hour of the day where I'm not that excited about it. And I'm going to really lean in to my best hours of the day. This concept of really using your best hours, the hours where you feel the most energy and drive for writing or for the most important parts of your work, or where you need to really bring your best mental game, right? We call the concept of using those best hours for your writing the soaring sessions, right? Like you want to think about the metaphor of a bird in flight who is soaring, kind of not flapping the wings and trying real hard, but kind of suspended by an invisible energy. The times of day when you feel like that, that's when you should be writing. You don't need a whole lot of hours. You need hours that land inside of those times of day when you have that feeling of soaring or that feeling of being uplifted versus that feeling of slogging. Everybody knows what I mean by that, right? So I want you to think about that. Maybe your soaring sessions are during when you eat every day, So it's time in 2021 to move the time you eat and instead to put writing in that time. Maybe you teach during that soaring state time. It's time in 2021 to look for all the ways that you can to move that teaching time to some other time of day and really lean in as a writer to your best times of day. So that's one way that you can be more you. Here's another way. A lot of people spend a lot of time worrying about breaking projects into tasks. And I talk about this on other podcast episodes, but really the key idea here is, and I'm always telling you, right? You need to break projects down into tasks. You need to approach your writing projects and all of your academic projects from a project management kind of perspective, right? Don't just go at it blindly, break things down into tasks and figure it out. Now, where people get stuck is they're like, well, Kathy, but how big is a task? What's a task? What's a project? How big is it? What does it look like? And what I usually say to them is an answer that they don't usually like, which is, you got to figure out what works for you. So a lot of people are like, well, if I break projects down into tasks, sometimes the task list feels overwhelming and then it paralyzes me. And my answer to that, or my advice there, is, well, then don't break things down into such small tasks. Make your task size maybe a little bigger so that you don't feel overwhelmed by this giant list. And the thing is, you're not going to know what the exact perfect right task size is for you until you start trying things and reflecting. And once you start trying things and reflecting, then you can figure out, okay, what is it that I need? The deeper question here is like, how can I best manage myself? And I think especially as people who are socialized as women, we spend a lot of time thinking about how outside forces expect us to act. And this affects us throughout all kinds of decisions that we make and the way that we go about our work and how we try to do things. And I want you in 2021 to stop worrying about how you think things are supposed to be done. Remember those shoulds that we talked about before, or how anybody else in the world does anything. And I want you to worry about how you do it and the best way that works the best for you. So if it means that you need to break projects down into teeny tiny tasks, do that. If it means you need your task size to be a little bigger, do that. How are you going to figure it out? Only by trying and then reflecting on what you tried. And also suspending judgment while you're doing that reflection. Suspend judgment about what you think you should have done or how you should be acting or how you should be writing, and instead focus on how things work best for you. Okay, a couple other ways that you can be more you this year, and especially in your writing and your scholarly work. So we talked about time of day for writing, right? You want to try to hit those soaring states where you have a lot of kind of natural energy and you're going to follow your natural day's rhythms. We talked about figuring out the right task size, right? And related to that would be the right goal size. Another thing that I teach in my signature writing systems, which I call soaring systems, another aspect of soaring systems is setting up rewards. So again, rewards shouldn't be something that I think would be rewarding. It should be something that you think is rewarding. So if ordering out from your favorite burger joint is your idea of a reward, then do that. If taking a complete afternoon off of work and driving to a nearby park or some place that you love to be in the outdoors is rewarding for you, then do that. I really want you to I want you to think deeply and reflect about what are the things that I feel good about? What are the things that make me feel good? And create those as your rewards. Again, don't think about what other people would think or what other people are using as rewards. That doesn't make any sense. Make them the rewards that really light you up. Okay, so those are 3 ways to make your writing system more you, right? Respect your soaring state, the time of day that you feel the most energy and drive. Use that for writing. Break projects into tasks and use a task size that feels good to you. And create rewards that feel good for you. We don't care what anybody else thinks is rewarding. We only care what you think is rewarding. Do things that light you up. Now let's turn to your scholarly work and take this same idea of, in 2021, I want you to be more you. Let's apply that to your scholarly work. And we might even say, apply this to your academic brand. So I'm going to play around with the concept of academic branding and marketing and that kind of metaphor for thinking about your academic work as I talk about why being more you is important. All right. As you are thinking about yourself as a scholar, the more you create your own opinion, an opinion and a perspective that relies on past scholarship, obviously, but doesn't exactly mimic past scholarship, the more you can be you, the more clearly the world is going to understand who you are and what you are about. And that is going to make you more citable. It's also probably going to make some people angry. So I'll give you an example of this, and I'm not going to name any names, but as I was developing my ideas around a new area of linguistics that when I was first starting out with it was called translanguaging. People are still, now this is a very popular term and people use it and it has much more research behind it. But when I first started out, I was latching on to Ofelia Garcia's definition of translanguaging, and I was applying it to my experience teaching English in Puerto Rico and watching how bilingual Puerto Rican students learned in science classrooms. I did research, went to present the research, and there was a whole school, there still is, of what I'm going to just call a little bit old school sociolinguists who got really angry with the idea of moving away from the terminology of code switching and moving to a model of translanguaging. And the more I would go and talk about it, the more angry these other people would get. And they would basically, I remember specifically being at a conference. Thankfully, it wasn't during my presentation. It was during one of these sociolinguistics people's presentations. And they did a whole presentation about how translanguaging was bunk. And I had done a different presentation with a group of, scholars who have made their names built their careers starting out with this translanguaging idea. And I had done a presentation with them earlier in the same conference. And I went to this sociolinguistic panel and I just stood up and said why they were wrong. I was like, okay, this is what you think and this is the evidence you're presenting, but I'm presenting you counter evidence. And they're still saying, no, you're wrong. That makes them angry. They came up, they were they're cordial about it, but they were pissed. And I realized then that, actually leaning in and making my view of things known was going to get me farther than trying to please everyone. Coming up with a new turn or riding a new wave in thought is going to make some people, maybe those people are famous scholars in the field, it's going to make them, feel like, what do these people know about? What are they talking about? We established this with all these years of research. And one of the things that this group of people particularly said was like, oh, that kind of negates my 30 years of code switching research. And I was like, no, it doesn't. It's just showing, it's leaving room for experiences that you didn't research and consequences that you weren't looking into. Anyway, the point is, me shrinking in those situations would not have helped my development as a scholar and my influence as a scholar. Instead, I needed to fully embrace my thoughts about this, linguistic phenomenon and explain it to the world. And so what I want you to do is to think about how your position and your thoughts, your position inside your field and your thoughts about your research areas are unique. What is the new thing? The thing that only you can do, that you are offering up to the world as you do your research and your writing. And that's what I want you to lean into in 2021. If that means that your former advisor comes out and says, "What do you think you're doing?" Perfect. I want you to be more you. Figure out who you are and then go be that. Because let me tell you something, successful academics do that. They are themselves. They're not just riding the waves of other people, they are making waves. Again, if 2020 taught us anything, it's that we don't have time to lose. We need to tap into all of our human creativity to solve problems and make the world better. And I would love for 2021 to really be about that. So going back to our theme of that I want you to be more you this year, I want you to really think about what makes you different. I'm not trying to put pressure on you. If you feel like nothing makes me different, try to, again, put the shoulds aside, put those judgments aside, and take some time now at the beginning of the year to articulate for yourself what makes you and your perspective on your field unique, and lean into that in 2021. So I am super excited for this new season of the podcast. We're going to have some amazing guests mixed with our solo episodes. We'll be bringing the coaches back on. We'll be interviewing other members of our team. And I've got lots of great stuff planned for what I hope is going to be an amazing year, which is 2021. So welcome to the new year. Welcome to the new season. This year, plan to be more you. Lean into you. Figure out who you are, how you work, and lean into that. Get rid of those shoulds, leave them in 2020, and in 2021, plan to be more you. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time loving on yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you're feeling pulled in 1,000 directions and can't seem to carve out time to write, I've got a solution for you. Go grab my 10 ways to make time to write cheat sheet. Just go to kathymazak.com/podcast-time to learn my best quick tips for putting writing at the center of your career where it belongs. We'll link that up in the show notes. Just go to kathymazak.com/podcast-time.